In this video, we are going to discuss about the Fourier representation of periodic signals. So before going for the Fourier representations, let us see some introduction points. That is, like we in the previous modules, we studied about convolution sum and convolution integral. So we are that like both convolution sum and convolution integral we use to represent output of an LTI system in terms of impulse responses. So in that model, we learned that any signal can be represented as a superposition of time shifted impulses. That is, we learned that like whatever the signals we have represented there, everything is in the time domain, or we learned about the time domain representation of the signal. So, in the frequency, in the Fourier representation, we are going to discuss about the frequency domain representation of a signal and systems. It was invented by a mathematician known as Joseph Fourier. So, when he was conducting some experiments related to distribution of heat around a body, that time he observed that any periodic signal can be represented as a series of harmonically related complex sinusoids, or we can tell it in this way: any periodic signal can be represented as a superposition of complex sinusoids. Okay, but his arguments and all were like it was imprecise, and it was not accepted by most of the mathematicians. So years after, and another mathematician came, and his name was Dirichlet. He provided some precise conditions for which our Fourier representation can exist. Okay, so these conditions are known as Dirichlet's condition. So so what we learned was Fourier representation means any periodic signal we are going to represent as a series of harmonics of complex sinusoids. Complex sinusoids means you can have a waveform like sine omega t or cos omega t or e power some j omega t. All those things are your complex sinusoidal functions. So what is meant by series of harmonics? It is like you just take a signal x of t, that x of t is equal to sine omega t. Okay, so your fundamental frequency is, or fundamental angular frequency is omega naught. Okay, so now we are going to represent that x of t as a sum of harmonics, means you have some other frequency waveforms also. It will be sine waveform only, but its fundamental frequency is different. Our original signal's fundamental frequency was omega naught, but for the harmonics, the frequency may be 2 omega naught, 4 omega naught, 5 omega naught, like that. So you can think it in this way: x of t, that is sine omega naught t, can be represented as sine omega naught t, that is your fundamental signal, plus I'm just going to assume an amplitude 5. Okay, so 5 sine 2 omega naught t plus 4 sine 3 omega naught t plus 3 sine 4 omega naught t plus etc. So you can see that you are going to get a different varieties of fundamental signals, or you are going to get some signals which is the same category as fundamental signal, that is like sine or cos. It's like its envelope is same as the fundamental signal, but its amplitude and its fundamental frequencies are different. Okay, so these kind of components are known as harmonics. So what is a Fourier representation? Means any periodic signal we are going to represent as a series of harmonically related complex sinusoids. Okay, so this is how your Fourier representation looks like. You may be having a DC component. Sometimes DC component may not be there. Okay, so you have a DC component, along with that your fundamental component, then your harmonics, second harmonics, third harmonics, like that it goes on. So now in the case of a signal and system, we have to find out like output response or output of an LTI system. So even for an Fourier representation also, like consider an LTI system first. Okay, so to this LTI system, I'm going to apply an input which is a complex sinusoidal signal. Okay, so first assume that this LTI system is a discrete time system. That is, my input is x of n. It is e power j omega n. So how can I represent the output of this LTI system is, it will be, you can see a term like this. That term is the frequency response of the LTI system. So this capital H is your frequency response. But you know that in convolution sum, in convolution integral, we were representing it as small h. So we know that that are your impulse responses. But here I said that Fourier representation gives you a frequency domain representation. So this is your, this capital H, this is your frequency response of the LTI system multiplied with what is the input you are giving. Okay, so like you can see that an output of an LTI system can be represented like this. Now, what is the equation for the frequency responses? Frequency response I can represent like this. It is summation h of k e power minus j omega naught k. This is for a discrete time system. Now, assume a continuous time system. In that case, I can assume that my signal, input signal x of t is e power j small omega naught t. Okay, in this case also, I can tell that my output of my continuous time system y of t is frequency response of the LTI system multiplied with the applied input. Okay, so here also the frequency response of a continuous time LTI system can be represented as, previously it was summation, that is replaced by integral h of tau e power minus j omega tau d tau. Okay, so this is how you are going to find out output of an LTI system if you are giving a complex sinusoidal signal as an input. Okay, so now we are going for a very important definition in the Fourier representation, that is orthogonality of complex sinusoids. Okay, so just consider two complex sinusoidal signals. Now we are going to find out the inner product of these two complex sinusoidal signals. So what is meant by inner product? In the case of a discrete time signal, that is both your complex sinusoidals are discrete time, then inner product means it is sum of values of their product. Okay, that is whatever the two signals you are taking, that signal's product, it's like summation. In the case of a continuous time signal, the summation should be replaced by integral. That's it. Okay, so now in the module 3, we have to study about Fourier series representation, that is for a continuous time signal. So that is why this orthogonality principle I am going to derive in terms of continuous time. Okay, that is like I'm going to assume two complex sinusoidal signals which is in continuous domain, that is phi k of t and phi m of t. What is phi k of t is e power j k omega naught t. Phi m of t is e power j m omega naught t. Okay, so I'm just assuming two complex sinusoidal signals. And now I'm going to find out the inner product of these complex sinusoidal signals. So how can I find out the inner product? Is, I said no, it is like integral of their product, but it is not the normal product. It is the first signal multiplied by complex conjugate of second signal, that is phi k of t multiplied by phi m star of t dt. What is phi k of t? It is e power j k omega naught t. I can substitute that value here. Whatever the value of your this thing, this phi k of t, that is first signal, that I can substitute here. what is complex conjugate of second signal? Complex conjugate of second signal will be e power minus j. That is only the difference. Okay, so I can substitute phi k of t as e power j k omega naught t. Complex conjugate of second signal as e power minus j m omega naught t. That is this j omega naught t are common, so I can take those two things outside. So this equation I can write it as, this is over a period of time, like it's for a fundamental period t. So the inner product I can be written as integral from 0 to t e power j, here k is there, here minus m is there, so k minus m omega naught t dt. Okay, so now we are going to integrate this thing. So how can we integrate this thing is, I can consider two conditions. That is, like I can have an assumption that it is k is equal to m. The second assumption is k is not equal to m. First, consider the first assumption. If I am substituting k value is equal to m, what will happen? This integral will become integral 0 to t e power 0 dt. What is e power 0? It is 1. That is integral 0 to t 1 dt. You are, after integration, you are getting your answer as inner product I is equal to t. Isn't it? So if k is equal to m. If k is not equal to m, what will happen? If k is not equal to m, then I can tell that this integration will be, normally I have to like integrate it as e power 2x. E power 2x is e power 2x by 2. Similarly, e power j k minus m omega naught t divided by j k minus m omega naught. Okay, now substitute the upper limit and lower limit. So if I am substituting the upper limit, here small t will be replaced by capital T. If I am substituting minus lower limit means minus this e power 0 will come, it is 1. So I am getting that this entire term where this small t is replaced by capital T minus 1 by this term. Okay, so now what is omega naught? Omega naught is your angular frequency. Usually omega naught we will represent it as 2 pi t, 2 pi capital T. So what will happen is, whatever there here, the denominator t and capital T will get cancelled. So are you getting a term in this way, e power j k minus m multiplied by 2 pi? Okay, so if you are assuming this k minus m is an integer, you can see that you are getting in the form of e power j 2 pi. E power j 2 pi is 1. This is what we know this thing from mathematics. So you can substitute this entire term as 1. So what will happen is, I'm taking this 1 by j k minus m omega naught outside. Okay, so you are going to get the upper limit. That is, like if I am substituting t, as I said, that both the t's will get cancelled, and I'm going to get in terms of e power j 2 pi. We know that e power j 2 pi is 1. So I'm getting 1 minus, if I'm substituting the lower limit, this entire thing will become e power 0, that is also 1. Are you getting 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0? So we can come to a conclusion that whatever the integral we got previously, this integral will be having a finite value or a non-zero value only when k is equal to 1. So are you getting the inner product of this this two complex sinusoidal signals as 0 if k is not equal to m? So in that case, we can tell that both these complex sinusoids are orthogonal to each other. Or we can tell in this way, if you have two complex sinusoidal signals and they are separated by an integer multiple of fundamental frequency, this is what I said. Just assume that k minus m is an integer value. So you are going to get it as e power j2 pi multiplied by 1 or 2 or something. So you can tell that e power j2 pi is 1. So this thing, entire thing will become 0. So if your like fundamental frequencies are separated by an integer, then you can tell that both the complex sinusoidals are orthogonal to each other. So this derivation we did for continuous time signal. Similarly, we can do for a discrete time signal. So integral will be replaced by summation. So n from 0 to n minus 1 e power j k minus m, small omega naught is replaced by capital omega naught n. It is equal to n, that is your total time period, if k is equal to m. If k is not equal to m, this is equal to 0. This is the orthogonality of the complex sinusoids. Okay, so this, like, just keep it in mind. Now we are again going back to the Fourier representation. So we said that like a Fourier representation of a periodic signal is, we are going to represent as a series of harmonically related complex sinusoids. Okay, so that is known as Fourier series representation. In the same way, we can go for Fourier representation of aperiodic signals or non-periodic signal. That is known as Fourier transform. So just keep it in mind. For a periodic signal, it is Fourier series. For a non-periodic signal, it is Fourier transform. If it is continuous time, if your signal is continuous time, so it is continuous time Fourier series. If it is discrete time, it is discrete time Fourier series. So in our syllabus, we have to study about continuous time Fourier series, that is this one, and discrete time Fourier transform. Okay, so this is all the things we want to study. So we learned that like we have 4 types of Fourier representations, depends upon the nature of the signal. Now, let us go for our syllabus content itself, that is continuous time Fourier series. So let us first derive the equation for continuous time Fourier series. So first consider a signal x of t. Okay, so it's a periodic signal, and I'm going to assume that its fundamental period is capital T. So now I'm going to represent this signal x of t in terms of Fourier, that is, like I'm going to represent the signal as a like a superposition of complex sinusoids. So you can see that I have represented in terms of, this is complex sinusoidal term. So obviously you will be having a doubt like, what is this? This is your Fourier series coefficient. Usually we will represent it as x of k, not a of k. Only in this derivation we are going to represent as a of k. Okay, so this is your Fourier coefficients for different values of k. Okay, so I just assumed a signal x of t, a periodic signal x of t, and I represented that signal in terms of superposition of complex x sinusoids. Okay, now we are going to find out what is this Fourier series coefficient, okay, for x of t. So how we are going to find out this thing is by using orthogonality property. So for that purpose, for to start the derivation, first assume that, just assume a signal x of t and assume our signal x cap of t, both are equal. Okay, now integrate both these signals with complex sinusoidals. Okay, so you can see that this x of t, I am multiplying with a complex sinusoidal and I am integrating over a time period t. Similarly, this x cap of t also I am multiplying with a complex sinusoid and I am going to integrate over a time period t. So already we know the value of x cap of t. Substitute the value of x cap of t in this right hand side equation. Okay, so this right hand side will become, integral is there, then this value, whatever the x cap of t value it is, summation k from minus infinity plus infinity, a of k e power j k omega naught t, then this term e power minus j omega m this thing dt. Now you know that this integral is with respect to time, but the summation is with respect to k, and this is also a of k. So I can take the summation and a of k outside the integral. So I took this thing outside and I'm integrating this. Now you see what is this? This is our orthogonality principle or orthogonality of complex sinusoids. We know that from orthogonality property, that integral, that is like the previous integral, this integral is having value only when k is equal to 1. For all other values, this integral will be 0. Okay, so I don't want to put k from minus infinity to plus infinity and all. I have value only when k is equal to m. So I can substitute it is k is equal to m itself. So k is equal to m means this thing will become a of m. A of m. Now, as I said, I'm just substituting k equal to m means this integral will become, what is the answer of that integral? It is, if k is equal to m, that integral value is t. So I can substitute that thing in the equation. So this left hand side, I'm not doing anything. It is as such I'm maintaining. Right hand side of my equation will become a of m multiplied by t. So for what purpose we did all those things? In order to find out the Fourier series coefficient. So instead of a of k, now I am getting a value a of m. Thus a of m is the Fourier coefficient at m, that is mth Fourier coefficient. Okay, so I can rearrange this equation as mth Fourier coefficient a of m is equal to 1 by t integral this thing. Okay, so this is what the continuous time Fourier series equation is. That is, any signal can be represented as a superposition of complex sinusoids along with the Fourier coefficients. What is the equation for this Fourier coefficient is this thing. Okay, so like we derived the equation for continuous time Fourier series this thing coefficients. Okay, so as when we were discussing about the introduction points about Fourier representation, that time I said that Fourier series it will become precise only when you are applying the Dirichlet's conditions. What are these conditions are? It's actually the three conditions are there. The first condition is x of t, the input signal x of t must be bounded. That is, it should have a finite value, or you can tell that it should be absolutely integrable. You take this signal. What is the period of the signal? It is like you can start from here, means this, if you are assuming this is the starting point, starting up to here, you have your signal. So you can think like your signal starts here and ends here. Okay, so in that case, how can I see, this is my starting point and this is my ending point. In this case, just see how how can you tell that the signal is bounded is, you can see that if I'm integrating this over a period ts to t plus ts, always I will get a finite answer only, isn't it? Like you will be having two integral. One integral will be ts to t minus ts with an amplitude 0. Another will be from t minus ts to t plus ts with an amplitude 1. If you are integrating this thing, obviously you will get a finite answer. Okay, so this is what the meaning of x of t must be bounded. Then the second condition is x of t must have a finite number of maximas and minimas in one period. Just see, I'll take this period itself. How many maximas and how many minimas are there? You can see that this is your first minima. Do you have anything else? No. How many maximas you have? Again, 1. So we have finite number of maximas and minimas over one time period. That is your second condition. Third condition is x of t must have finite number of discontinuities. Discontinuities means you can see that you just start at the starting point. You can see that abruptly your signal is having a transition from 1 to 0. So this is your first discontinuity. Then you can see that you have a transition from 0 to 1. So this is your second discontinuity. Again, you can see that it's having a transition from 1 to 0. So this is your third discontinuity. Are you getting a finite number of discontinuities? This is what the third condition, this condition is specifying. Okay, so if these three conditions are satisfying, then any periodic signal can be represented as a superposition of complex sinusoids. Okay, so now we'll go to the next point. First, let me clear all these drawings. Yes. Now, I don't want to annotate. So now we are going to see what's the actual equation. This is what we derived also. So like a Fourier series of a periodic signal x of t can be represented as x of t is equal to summation k from minus infinity plus infinity x of k. What is this x of k? That x of k is the Fourier series coefficients. Okay, so x of k e power j k omega naught t, and this equation is known as the synthesis equation. Okay, it is known as the synthesis equation. Similarly, come to this. So now I am going to represent the Fourier series coefficient equation, that is x of k. This is what we derived in the earlier, but at that time instead of x of k we wrote it as a of k. That's only the difference. So x of k, that is Fourier series coefficient, is equal to 1 by t integral over the time t x of t e power minus j k omega naught t dt. This equation is known as the analysis equation. That is, you can think it in this way, synthesis equation means a continuous time signal you are going to represent as a frequency domain signal or a Fourier representation you are going to do. That is the synthesis equation. Analysis equation means like you are going to find back what is your x of t value. Okay, so now just let us see like what is this. That is, like as I said, x of t means this is your time domain representation. X of k means this is your frequency domain representation. These two representations forms together the Fourier series pair. Okay, so we can represent the Fourier series pair like this. That is, like from time domain, we can, if we are finding out the Fourier series, we can go back to the frequency domain. Again, if you are doing the inverse Fourier series, you can take the frequency domain's representation to time domain back. Okay, so this is the definition of continuous time Fourier series.